What's good, pro football fans? Welcome to the Power Hour. I'm Vinny Bonston, New York. I am the beat writer for the Las Vegas Raiders over at the Las Vegas Review-Journal. You can read my stuff at Vegas Nation, the app, or go to vegasnation.com. I also host a radio show on Raider Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. in the huddle, brought to you by Tequila Embajador. This is my co-host, Les Kekahuna.
Great to be here, Vinny.
And I got to say this. There's probably one person on the entire planet Earth, the entire planet, who predicted that the Raiders would be 3-0, and that's my man Les. And I'm not kidding around. I'm not kidding around. Every single week, he texts me and explains to me why the Raiders are going to win. And sometimes I believe it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, whatever. But I got to say, he's been right. Les, man, you really did see that the Raiders would be 3-0.
A big part of it is most of the information you gave me.
Well,
from OTAs.
Yeah.
And how you always shared with
Appreciate
me.
that.
Yeah, no. And the moves they made in free agency, the drafting, and how important. You broke it down for me. As I listened to it and playing the game, coaching the game, I said, man, these are some of the pieces that I think that's what they needed to get better.
Yeah, and it goes back. It does honestly go back to and it's why off seasons are so important. People sometimes scoff at OTAs and how they're out there running around in shorts or anything like that, but it's meaningful. And in particular, it was important for the Raiders because they did bring in a whole bunch of new pieces defensively, including a new defensive coordinator. Yeah. Right. It wasn't necessarily. I wouldn't say an overhaul.
The coaching staff.
The coaching staff for sure.
Yeah, the coaching staff.
The coaching staff for sure. But what was, in retrospect, and let's spend a couple minutes talking about this on defense, because really when you look at the game Sunday against the Miami Dolphins, the Raiders fall behind 14-0. Right. It was mostly due to the offense. Let's be honest about it. A pick six for 7 points to start the game. And then the Raiders can't get a fourth down conversion on their side of the field. Miami has Miami has a short field to cash in another touchdown. Okay, but from that point on, Les, 7 straight possessions, the defense forced the Dolphins off the field, whether it was through a punt, whatever the case might be, to give the offense a chance to catch up, which they eventually did with a 25-point run. By the way, it all started with a great play by Casey Hayward, one of the newcomers that we're going to talk about here in a second, on a safety. Yeah. To start it all off. I know it was only 2 points, but it was a huge momentum changer. So let's go back and talk about that. What was so interesting about what the Raiders did, they brought not just good players, but leaders in at all 3 levels of their defense. You want to talk about Unique Ngakwe and what he's brought to the table? You want to talk about Denzel Perryman? Who has just been a beast this year, anchoring the middle of the linebacker group.
Flying all over the place.
You got Casey Hayward, who we just spoke about. Those are cagey veterans, so it wasn't necessarily a big overhaul, but they brought in select guys at all 3 levels of their defense.
Right, and you know what? Casey Hayward is a former player at the Chargers with Gus Bradley, so
exactly.
It says a lot about how he believes in the coach.
Yeah,
right? To say, you know what, I'm going to go with you, coach. I want to be over there.
No doubt about it. Casey Hayward has given up 1 pass this year.
Unbelievable, man.
And that pass was the one that had turned into a safety.
Right.
So and we talked to him after the game on Sunday. He's like, I'll take that.
Right.
I'll take it. For that to be my first completion that I gave up, I'll take it on a safety. But if you watch the tape, it was such a great instinctual play by him.
The close on that play, how he closed him.
And he did say, he guessed, and he goes, I'm glad I guessed right.
Most of the time, defensive backs have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to play. You have to anticipate something.
It could have gone the other way, is what he was saying. But sometimes that's football, right?
That is football. That's why so you take a lot of risks, especially that position.
And the good players. And I know sometimes that could drive coaches crazy. I'll tell you a funny story. Pat Kerwin, who does a great job on NFL radio, tells a story of when he was working with the Jets, and he was with Pete Carroll with the New York Jets a few years ago, and they bring in Ronnie Lott. If you remember, Ronnie Lott played a little while for the New York Jets, right? And so Pete Carroll, who was a defensive-minded head coach, is walking Ronnie Lott through some things after they brought him in. And so they're on the field, and he's like, look, if the offense is in this personnel grouping and the slot wide receivers here, whatever, he's like describing what the offense was going to be doing. He says to Ronnie, if that happens, I need you to be right here on the field, right here. And Ronnie Lott looks at Pete and says, Coach, I can't promise that I'm going to be there. And so Pete's like, Why? He's like, Coach, sometimes I see something on the football field, and I go make a play. Pete Carroll's like, you keep doing that.
You just go do that.
Go ahead.
Right.
Like
Make me look good.
right. There's times where you believe in the player enough, where you say, you know what, be a football player and go make a play, and that's what Casey Hayward
and then
did.
the coach says this. That's exactly what I told him.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
what I told him.
And that's what Casey Hayward did, and it changed the momentum. But Les is right.
Momentum changing.
The what they were able to do in this offseason, you're starting to see it now. They're playing faster. They're playing more efficiently, defensively, and it's contributed them to be 3-0.
And the two things that I feel that they're playing fast.
Yeah.
Is for one, they understand the calls. Right?
Yeah.
When you know what you have to do, you fly around.
Yes.
And then two, they're confident in the coach and making those calls.
No question.
You know, those two things, and it looks like it, at least the way I see it.
Yeah, and Les and I have been around football enough. If you don't believe in what you're doing, and sometimes you just you have to do it because your coach is telling you to do it, and otherwise, you're a problem guy, and you may not even have a job. So you do it, but there's a part of you that, even if you're not intentionally doing it at half speed or whatever, just that lack of belief is the difference between you playing it with a lot of conviction and a lot of energy and passion.
Sometimes you feel like it's not going to work, right? So you're like, it ain't going to work.
It's a reluctance.
It's not going to even work.
A skepticism. And I felt personally last year, in addition to a lot of different things, I thought the Raiders defense was playing with a little bit of skepticism and just non-belief, and also maybe not even having a great understanding of what they were trying to do.
Right, you don't understand what your responsibility is, and maybe a couple other things, which is if it doesn't work, and then maybe three, this guy's not going to even be here soon,
Exactly.
You start to play with those things in your head.
Yes.
You play slow.
But also, when you look at this Raiders defense, and I think everybody from at all levels will tell you, this defensive line is really...
They get after them, man.
Yeah.
They're always putting pressure. You watch the tape, you watch the game.
Even on Sunday, I forgot how many pressures they were, but it was might have been led the NFL on Sunday on pressures. I give a lot of credit to Jacoby Brissett.
No, he's good.
He made some plays.
Yeah, he's a big guy too. He's not easy to bring down.
Not at all, and he did just enough athletically with the footwork to buy himself a little bit of time to make some plays downfield. It ended up hurting the Raiders, but it was weird. Even when it went into overtime. And we're in the press box thinking, how did it get here? It shouldn't have gotten there. There was a mixed extra point. There was a bad penalty in the end zone that set the Dolphins up at the 1 yard line.
Max had that late hit on the quarterback.
Yeah, which you got to call it.
You got to call it right.
It was one of those, where it would have never been called 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But it's a different game now.
The drive.
Right, exactly. So a couple of back-breaking penalties. They get back in the game. But even when it was in overtime, it was weird. I'm thinking, I still had a feeling that the Raiders were going to figure it out and win the game. Yeah. To me, they were the better team in that game. And that's a good sign.
Right. And you know what? Speaking of being confident, I was at another stadium watching the game, right? So it was on the screen, and there was a whole bunch of Raider fans and even some Rams fans. And everyone was saying this. I could hear people saying, the Raiders are going to pull it out.
Yeah. And when was the last time? When was the last time you could say that, right?
It was, the confidence was like, they're going to find a way to win this, So that's good. It's good to see the energy, the attitude is changing with everyone, right?
And what's very interesting about what Les is saying, I think that's the feeling on the sideline, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, they went for it on 4th down, deep in their own territory. If you don't feel you have a good defense, you're probably not going to do that, right?
Right.
You say, let me just kick this ball out of here. We're down some points. Just get it out of here and try to play the field position.
A couple of things to get out there. The Raiders are the first team in NFL history to start a season 3-0, beating teams that won 10 or more games the year before. So when you start talking about this 3-0, and we're going to get into some other teams that are 3-0 at this point, it's a fairly legitimate 3-0.
Oh,
they played a pretty good schedule.
They did. They played a really good schedule.
They also have 4 wide receivers now, or 4 receivers: Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards, and Henry Ruggs that have 200 or more yards receiving this year. They're the only team in the NFL that are on that kind of a pace, spreading the ball around. And while we're on that subject, Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards, especially late in games. Now, of course, they've played 2 overtime games, so the stat that I'm going to tell you, you have to keep that in mind. But in fourth quarters and in overtime, Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs are number 1 and number 2 in yards when you count fourth quarters and overtime. Now, again, it's a little bit skewed because the Raiders have played 2 overtime games, but the stat itself is significant because in big time moments, these 2 young players are starting to show up.
And they have, like you mentioned, there's 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
You can't forget about a lot of, can't forget about Ruggs and all that stuff. So it opens up, the defense wise, we can't just key on one guy or 2.
Ruggs, I want to talk about him real quick. After the game, he kind of let it out that there was some chatter that he had heard.
Oh, really?
We're guessing that it came from Xavier Howard, the Miami Dolphins.
The top cornerback, right?
Yeah, so he had said something apparently on a podcast, and Henry
was roasting.
Well, Henry told us because I had a little extra for this game.
Right.
Okay.
They was going at it. I could see them talking a lot.
Yeah, and we were trying to get out of like, what? What do you? I'm not going to really say, but
I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yeah. So here's my thing. Number 1, Henry. There probably isn't a more humble kid on the Raiders than Henry Ruggs. He's kind of got that Southern gentleman thing going, where yes sir, no sir type of guy. I like that. There was a little, you poke him a little bit, and all of a sudden the gentleman thing is right out the door, and he's going to, like Les said, roast somebody. And not just somebody, maybe the best cornerback in the NFL. Secondly,
all defense. I saw Jalen Ramsey play.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He's good. Secondly, this is what I really like. Nobody had any idea that was going on. Like, a lot of players would have let it known the week leading up to the game. Yeah. Oh, I heard that. I'm coming after you. Henry, in true Las Vegas style, kept that card in his back pocket and didn't let anyone know that he was even thinking along those terms, and comes out and plays a game that against a really good cornerback with a little bit of fire on him. So, like that sign from the young wide receiver.
Yep.
Competitor.
Very, very, very big on taking on the challenge. Yep.
So, a lot to like about where the Raiders are going from the defensive line, what they're doing in the secondary.
They do need to run the ball a little bit.
They do.
Right? They fix some things in the running game.
They finished with 100.
Yeah, they did better.
140 plus yards.
Yeah.
Peyton Barber came alive in the second half. Ended up with 111 yards on 23 carries, 4.8 yards per carry.
But you know what? Like, I mean, sorry to cut you off real quick. It's not like they faced some easy defenses either. Based on, I know it's just 3 weeks into the season. I looked into it. Baltimore is the number 1 defense.
Yep.
Number 2 is Pittsburgh.
Right.
Even though Pittsburgh, I think, is 1 and 2, but their defense is ranked 2.
Yeah.
And the Miami Dolphins are number 6.
Right.
So they faced
3
top 6 defenses in the last 3 weeks.
And I thought at the end of the Steelers game, and then certainly in the second half against Miami, they were able to get the run game going. Listen, there was some criticism of John Gruden on my timeline, and I know elsewhere. Fans felt like he got a little too conservative in that second half. I don't know. You have to be able to run the ball in that situation, Les. Yep. And they weren't able to late. Like their last 2 possessions before overtime was 2 3-and-outs, and they did try to run the ball in those situations for obvious reasons. You're trying to.
You got to keep the defense honest as well,
Yeah, and
if you
so
just pass, they're going to pin his back and kill the quarterback.
Right. So it's something that they have to get fixed, and I think to me, a lot of it starts on the offensive line. They're still finding their way. Andre James, the fact of the matter is, and Les alluded to it, they have played 3 really good defensive fronts and defenses. Period.
Very good.
He just hasn't played very well, and that's just the fact of the matter. He's a first-year starter, replacing one of the best centers in the league in Rodney Hudson, so that needs to get better. It also doesn't help, that the Raiders went into the season thinking that Richie Incognito was going to be on his left side, kind of being that veteran guy to help him. He hasn't played a game last year. Yeah, he's on IR. He's going to miss at least 2 more games. You got a rookie right tackle.
The Raiders lost the other guard.
Denzel Good.
So for the whole season, right? He's out for the season?
Yeah. So the 2 veterans that they
the interior stuff.
Yeah, that they expected to be flanking. Right. The first-year center Andre James aren't there. So, but the thing is, they don't postpone games in the NFL.
Nope.
You got to go play them. And for now, the key is that he just has to get better. Andre James has to get better, and that's the fact of the matter. Do you think it's possible?
Oh yeah, they will. It takes time. Offensive line. For me, I just feel that it takes longer to get it all figured out as far as the chemistry and the plays and also. I'm a defensive guy.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier to install defensive calls than it is offensive calls. It's tough. Offensive line is a tough position.
It probably also doesn't help, that
one of the smartest players. I think some of the smartest players are the offensive line.
No doubt about
There's
it.
so much responsibility.
And it probably doesn't help that, and Peyton Barber just got here a few weeks ago. He wasn't here during OTAs, obviously. He wasn't here during training camp. So, he's trying to figure out.
How's it look with Jacob? Is he coming back?
From what we understand, he's going to practice this week. So it's a Monday night game. So they're going to practice. Yeah, exactly. They're not going to get on the field until Thursday of this week. It'll be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, walk through Sunday, play on Monday situation. So there's still a couple of days as we're taping this, before he's going to get on the field. But I think they want to try to get him back. I mean, I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But aside from that, you got to give John Gruden a lot of credit for, and obviously Derek Carr ultimately. But even with a run game that was really non-existent in the first half, they got it going a little bit in the second half. They've been able to manufacture yards. They've been able to manufacture points.
Play calling's been great.
Yeah, and execution from Derek Carr.
Oh man, he's throwing that ball good too, right?
Yeah.
Man, he's finding the open guy. He's putting it where only his guy can make a play on it. It's all good stuff.
Man. Yeah, definitely. And as we sit, the Raiders are 3-0. They're one of how many teams that are undefeated?
I believe
the
4.
Broncos, the Raiders, the Cardinals, who would have suspected
the
that,
Rams,
and the Rams,
Panthers,
and the Panthers. Okay, let's list them 1 to 5. Let's start at 5.
5 being the worst.
Yeah. I'm going with the Broncos.
I'm going to say the Broncos because the Broncos, like we had talked about, hey, NFL games are hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say anything's easy, but they beat 3 teams that if you added all 3 of those teams win-loss record, it's 0-9.
Let's just name the teams too. The Giants. This puts it in an even better perspective, really. The Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets. Okay, so
Jets.
Right. Hey, you got to win the games that
you're supposed to win, right?
Yeah, you have to do that, obviously, and they have. So you give them credit for that. But
so do they go 3-1 or 4-0 this week?
They're playing the Baltimore Ravens at home.
At home, mile high.
Yeah.
I mean, the air might be
too
bad
for that.
Might be too thin for
what
Lamar.
Right. The Raiders, the Ravens are must be loading up at home because they've only had the one home game, and they've been to Las Vegas, Detroit, and now Denver. That's a tough go. I do think the Ravens should win that game.
3-1. Ravens go 3-1.
Yeah.
And Denver goes 3-1.
Okay, and who else? What other?
And then the next one I say the Panthers.
Who are the other ones? We got the Raiders. The Cardinals. Yeah. Yes, I would say that too. I would say that.
The Panthers are playing the Cowboys at the Cowboys.
Cowboys coming off a Monday night. Yeah. The Cowboys are home again.
They're home again. Big win. They just beat their division rival.
You think that you would suspect that the Cowboys are going to win that game?
Yeah.
I like the Cowboys.
They're sleeping on the Panthers though. Yeah. The coach has done a great job.
I love Matt Rule. Right? Matt Rule. You think about where he's been and what he's done.
The guy just builds a winning culture everywhere he goes.
Exactly. And then they just traded for C.J. Henderson.
They did?
Yeah. To replace Horn, who they lost to a foot injury. So yeah, I think that's safe to say he's number 4, or the Panthers are number 4.
So you thinking the Cowboys are going to beat Panthers, or Panthers 4-0?
I think the Cowboys win that game.
Cowboys win that game.
But if the Panthers win that game, now we're going to really start thinking.
Yeah,
they're serious. Okay, so I think the Rams are. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think they're number 1. All right, I think they're the best team in football.
Yeah, that's why we're working that way. So I was like, Rams are going to.
Let's just go there.
Then I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Well, you know what?
Here's where it gets a little. Yeah, I think the Cardinals are a pretty good team.
They are, man. They have a great quarterback right now, playing good. The defense is stopping some people, making some plays. They got some pretty good players over there, man. Got 2 good receivers.
Who do they play this week?
I know. They play the Rams at the Rams.
Are you sure that's that?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So the Rams.
In LA.
Wow, the Rams are playing at home.
You think maybe the
and
Rams
the next day,
are
and then
right down from playing Tom Brady and the whole hype preparing for him and kind of like stumble going into the Cardinals game.
What's interesting to me is that the Raiders play the Chargers the very next day at that stadium.
Right.
So interesting scheduling right there. Yeah, I think the Rams win that game.
Yeah,
I think the Rams win that game.
They should. They're at home, and they're a really good team. I got to watch this past week.
That's
It's
so. So
really
are
good.
we saying right now that the Raiders are the second best team
Second best.
of these
Of
teams?
the undefeated teams. Of the undefeated teams.
Maybe. I mean, if they're the second best behind the Rams in this argument, are they
Mhm.
the second best team in the NFL right now?
They could be because the Rams could very well be the best team in the
Yeah.
NFL right now.
Yeah.
You know, just right now. I'm talking about 3 games into the season.
Because who else? I mean, let's play that game. Who else would you? They
Put
beat
up
the
there.
Baltimore Ravens. The
Get the Bills.
Buffalo,
Buffalo
but
Bills.
yeah,
Good.
yeah, they
Pretty good
are.
team.
We'll talk about that at a later
The
date. But
Titans
yeah,
are pretty good too.
the Titans are pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah. I mean, I think regardless, I think and Les was talking about this earlier before we started shooting today. You know, the Rams or the you could make a case that the Raiders could go on a little run here.
Oh yeah. But looking at their schedule, I mean they could win those games. You know, those are winnable games.
There's nobody
they're
that
facing that you're like, oh no, like,
forget
like
that.
the Rams. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like oh okay, they're playing the Rams this week. Ooh, you know,
Right.
It's kind of like, well, you
I'd
know,
love to see that game, by the way.
They could very well beat the teams. You know, the next team they play is the Chargers. We all know that. You know, at the Chargers, it'll be a tough game.
Tough.
They're at LA. You know, it's always conference games are tough.
Right.
Then the game after that, they play the Bears. You know, as far as a win-loss record, you know, they should have you know, they're the better team on
Right.
paper, right?
Yeah.
And then the week after that, they play
Denver.
Denver at Denver, right? It's a tough game because
Yeah.
it's always on the road.
Right.
Game. But yeah.
And the Bengals, I think.
No, and then after that they play, I believe
The Eagles.
The Eagles.
Yeah, here in Las
Over here.
Vegas.
So, and then after that, it's KC.
All right, so lot to like about what the Raiders have done so far, without question. I mean,
Right.
they're 3-0 against in a really tough schedule while dealing with some injuries. But I got to ask you about the Kansas City Chiefs, and something just doesn't feel right now with the Chiefs. And the easy answer is to say, well, the defense is just in shambles.
Right.
I mean, they can't stop anybody.
They're giving up 32 points a game.
Yeah, and,
Average.
Right, and
That's not going to win a lot of games.
no, and it's just when you start looking at a situation like that, you start thinking about, okay, where do you go for help? I don't know that the Chiefs can go anywhere for help to get the kind of help that they need defensively.
They are 1-2, but honestly, really I watched
0-3.
3 games. They could be 0-3.
The Browns should have beaten them.
Yeah, the Browns had them, and you know, and just looking at how they're playing right now, they don't look very good.
So, couple things. When you don't have a defense that you're comfortable with being able to stop somebody, it changes everything, even
And
on
they
the
can't
outside.
run the ball.
Right. That's the other point.
Yeah.
They can't run the ball.
Yeah.
They don't have a defense that can stop anybody.
Yeah.
So guess what? Guess who has to play hero ball
Yeah.
game in and game
Has
out?
to
That's
do
Patrick
everything.
Mahomes. And that's what leads to mistakes. And he's already thrown a couple of big-time interceptions.
Bad, ill-advised throws.
Yeah. And it shows you that, really for me, what it proves again and again and again and again, football is such a team game. Even with a great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, you can make a case he's the best quarterback in the NFL. But even when he feels somewhere in his psyche, I got to make a play.
Yeah.
I
Force something.
yeah, that's where stuff happens. Okay, let's mention that he was at a football game this week. He was at the Rams game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
I got to ask
2
you.
great teams.
Yes. Matthew Stafford, to me, has been waiting his whole career
Right.
to play on that kind of a stage.
Opportunity to play with that kind of players around him.
That too, for sure. But and allow that to give him a stage to play in that kind of a game. Yeah, that game on Sunday was a playoff game.
It was.
In every imaginable way. And you're playing the Super Bowl champions. You're playing Tom Brady. You were brought in to win games like this.
Win that game, that type of game.
You never really had a chance because of the situation that you were in Detroit to get that kind of a stage. I thought he embraced it and played pretty well.
He played really well. I got to watch the game, and like I was mentioning to you before it was on camera, you can tell all the players believe in him. You know,
Yeah.
the body language of the players and how he commands, you know, the field and the play calling. And he did a really good job. He made some nice throws. He found the open guy. Because when I was at the game, you know, when you watch it on TV, you only get to see where the ball is, right? Okay, the quarterback has the ball, has cameras on him. He throws the ball, has cameras on that receiver. But you look around at the field, and the guys that he threw to, that was the right guy.
Yeah.
Every time.
Oh,
He threw it to the right guy.
I covered the Rams. I was there when Sean McVay first showed up as a hotshot young head coach. Kind of have a good feel for what they do. It's very interesting to me because over the first 2 games, people were telling me, Deshaun Jackson, I mean, he's not doing anything. I had a feeling all along that Sean McVay, being as astute as he is, was keeping that on the back burner. He wanted to wait. He didn't feel like he needed to show all that in the first 2 games. So no surprise to me whatsoever. In fact, I had a feeling this was going to happen. Deshaun Jackson has his coming out party.
Oh, wow.
And
I actually forgot he was there.
Exactly.
And so when I was at the game, he made that touchdown and he was making big plays.
Great
I was like,
coaching.
Oh, man, he's here. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's great coaching because even I guarantee you right now, John Gruden hasn't shown all his cards. You don't have to.
No, not this early in the season.
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, there's stuff that you're just.
You
have
want to put it on tape. You
Right.
don't want the opponents to see that on tape. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
So anyway, by the way, your impressions quickly of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey.
Oh my goodness, like freaks, like freaks. Aaron Donald was inside, outside. He was putting pressure. He's like looping around, always applying pressure.
Absolutely.
And Jalen Ramsey, he's unbelievable. He can play anything. He was playing corner one play. They had him a slot corner. They had him blitzing. They had him moving all over the place, man. This guy
Cooper Kupp?
He's unreal. That guy catches everything,
Yeah.
man. And he can run. It seems like every route, right?
Totally.
He was running deep routes. He was running in the mesh routes. He was catching everything, and you could tell Stafford believed in him.
Oh yeah.
Because he was getting them the ball,
Yeah.
especially on the big down play.
Yeah.
When they needed to convert third downs, they needed to make a big play.
It's a good team over in Los Angeles.
Very
There's
well
a really good team
balanced
here
team.
in Las Vegas, and I also think the other team in Los Angeles, the Chargers, are a pretty
I
good
was
team.
joking around at the stadium and all the Rams fans. There was a lot of Raider fans there too.
Of course.
And I told him, I said, man, it looks like the Raiders Super Bowl.
In Los Angeles, by the way, at SoFi Stadium, we got a long, we got a long way to go before there. But hey, can't rule it out. Absolutely. I mean, both teams are 3-0, so there you go. We're gonna wrap it up. We'll be back next or later this week, by the way, to preview the big games coming up on Sunday and Monday, and then also obviously the Raiders against the Chargers. So check us out. Thanks for being a part of this. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate the support. Also, you can read all my stories, and we have podcasts and videos, not just from myself, but all my colleagues over at the Las Vegas Review Journal by downloading the app Vegas Nation or going to vegasnation.com. And of course, check me out on Raider Nation Radio Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time in the huddle, brought to you by Tequila and Baja Garden.
Oh, he said everything right there. We're at Rockstar Bar. Thank them. And listen to the station. You get the best information.
Appreciate that.
NFL information, not just the Raiders. He speaks about all of it.
Thank you very much. And we will check back with you guys later this week.